August/September is a pretty painful time of the year for us dentists because our indemnity fees are due and those can tally up to quite the expense. So certainly anything that can save on that front and ensure that we're getting the best deal is helpful. And that's why I have Mr. Adam O'Keefe joining us today from AllMed Pro Insurance Specialists. He's here to share with us what us dentists need to know in order to save some money, get the best deal, ensure that our cover is adequate for all eventualities, and make this time of year as least painful as possible. Something super topical today, which is indemnity, and this is the time of year where us dentists start to think about it again. And I've got my good compadre, good friend, Adam O'Keefe sat with me today, head of AllMed Pro. We're going to be talking about indemnity and what you need to know to get the best deal, because everybody feels like they're paying too much, right? It's a common gripe. Us dentists love a bargain, right? And that's fine. That's okay. What do you reckon, Adam?
Yeah, well, you certainly do. And it's that time of year, July, August, September, the peak of indemnity renewals. Good time to have this conversation for sure.
Let's do it. Interested to know, and this might have an obvious answer. I'm going to ask you it anyway. Why is it that around about now there is a peak? Is it because this is when all the FDs, the FDs go into work, right? And then it's like the renewal of the academic year. It's like a knock-on effect from that, right?
Yeah, you've got it spot on there. Yeah. Most of them graduated around this time of year, first job, going into work September, October time. So there's a few other times of the year where there's slight peaks, January, February. But other than that, yeah, this is peak season.
Interesting. There we go. I'm going to ask another question that might have an obvious answer, but again, I want to ask it anyway, because this is always at the top of dentists' minds. Why does it go up so much, almost like exponentially in the first few years, the fee for indemnity, the renewal fee? Adam, why do dentists typically experience that, at least with some companies?
Well, if we're talking those who've recently qualified, quite often there's a bit more supervision around the first couple of years, so it's staged, the premiums increase. In terms of increase in general terms, which we are seeing many of the indemnity providers increase their rates year on year, the main factor to that will be claims. We have seen claims trends on the up and claims costs on the up over the last it's year on year. So that's the main driver for premiums going up generically, I would guess.
Got a query as well, interesting one for the audience. I know that there is a common theme that litigation is going up in dentistry, or at least there was over the last few years. Is that still on the rise, or is it kind of leveled off?
I would say it's not on the rise as it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago. It is leveling off, but claims are still very costly. So that's where the issue still lies.
Yikes. Okay, and naturally that's going to come through in our indemnity bill as a dentist. Well, listen, it's a little bit like this. If we're going to have to pay for something, let's make sure we're paying for value. So let's cut to the chase. How do us dentists know that we're getting a good deal when it comes to our insurance renewal or our indemnity?
Well, there's a lot of good indemnity providers out there nowadays. In the last 10, 15 years, since 2011, when we set up, you only had 3 indemnity providers, medical defence organisations, and it's kind of moved on quite a bit over that period. I would say you look beyond sort of the claims occurrence, you look beyond the contract certainty, you look beyond the 24/7 support. That's a very minimum, in my opinion, what you should have. You look beyond that. What else can that indemnity provider provide me at my time of need? Where is that, something might hit the press. Do I need PR or reputation protection? I'm struggling with, mental health, or, what else can this indemnity provider help me at my time of need? And I think that's it, really. So yeah, it's getting fair value for what you are paying for, and making sure that indemnity provider is on your side.
I see. So as a minimum, those would be the things that you would expect. So that's almost like a checklist. And am I right in saying that not every, obviously we're definitely not here to name names, but just out of interest, you know more about the market than me. It's not always a given that every provider provides that stuff, right?
No, not all providers offer the occurrence cover, and not all providers provide contract certainty. By contract certainty, I mean an insurance product with terms and conditions. Most do offer the 24/7 support, but again, that's the sort of minimum expectations you'd expect to speak to a dental legal advisor if you've got a query or require advice.
Interested to know, and I feel like you'll know the answer to this. Is it a bit of I don't know if this is an urban myth or not, but some people say that even when you consult your indemnity provider over the phone, as in you just have a query or there's some sort of sniff of a complaint and you're speaking to them for advice, that then means that your indemnity goes up?
No. Well, I say no, not for us. We encourage individuals to give us a call. At the end of the day, if we can get onto something early and stop that sort of going towards a claim or escalating, we want to know sooner rather than later. And I know there is a project, I think it's called Project Steer, where a number of the indemnity providers are within that group. And that is one of the main intentions of it, not to penalise dentists for using the advice line. So from our perspective, call us as much as you need. And we want to help you out early doors.
Well, that makes sense actually now that you say it out loud, because surely that investment of time on the provider's on the provider's behalf, basically will mean that they can then subsequently avoid more of an outlay later.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly it.
Makes sense. Interesting. Okay, one thing we have to talk about, because this is a topic of contention that I still feel a lot of dentists don't know about this. And certainly for the ones that do, they're a little up in arms about it. Discretionary versus non-discretionary cover. Yeah. Maybe it might be nice if we had a bit of an explainer as to what those terms mean, first of all.
Yeah, of course. I touched on it right back at the beginning. When we first set up in 2011, it was 3 discretionary providers. Now, discretionary cover is pretty much as it sounds. It's down to the discretion of the provider whether they will cover a claim or not. Now, I always say, would you insure your house for fire and then wait till you've had the fire to find out whether you're covered or not? Would you cover your car and then, you have an accident and it's only at the point or the time of an accident, whether you're covered or not? I don't think many of us would. So with discretionary cover, there's no sort of terms and conditions. There's no financial ombudsman service at the end of it. So if a claim is repudiated or rejected, then you've got no rights of recourse. So on the flip side, you have contract certainty or a contract of insurance. It has a terms and conditions. It has you complete your proposal. You say you're doing X, Y, and Z. They cover those for you, and any exclusions will be there in black and white. And I mean exclusions. It's normally activities you haven't declared. So it's. And again, if there are any issues with that claim, you have got the ombudsman service and the right of recourse. So for me, it's pretty obvious. Insurance or contract of insurance is the way forward.
And am I right in saying, because I guess what might be going through some people's heads who are listening is they might be saying, hey, but if I get discretionary cover, in which case, well, really, it's not even necessarily the case that they'll give me cover should there be a claim. I guess what some people might assume is that is cheaper as a result.
No. In some cases, it'll be more expensive. Looking at all the indemnity providers, there's not too much between them in terms of what you pay nowadays. There's just different tweaks between what they cover and what they don't.
I see. So that's not even necessarily the case. Well, it's good to spell that out, right? Because you might assume that from listening.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit like, to use a crude analogy, comprehensive cover for your car versus third party. The third party is going to be cheaper, right? But there's less cover.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it's not even quite third party. It's just because at least third party you definitely will get something if someone crashes into you. It's literally
Yeah,
not the case.
there's some providers out there who offer claims-made insurance, which is cheaper. By claims-made insurance, it is it's contract certain policy, but what it is if you, it's a bit like your car and home insurance, really. Whilst the policy's in force, your cover's in force. Once that policy ends, cover ends. So, in the scenario of a dentist, you do treatment yesterday, your policy's in force. Yeah, it expires tomorrow. If a claim comes in for treatment performed yesterday and it's expired in a couple of days, you won't be covered. So that is cheaper. Obviously, there are ways you can work around that by renewing the policy, going elsewhere, getting run-off cover. But yeah, there are cheaper options, but I wouldn't advise taking claims-made insurance unless you really need to.
Interesting. And you just touched upon something that was always a question in my mind. Let's say you have a dentist who is
Yeah.
covered their whole career, and then all of a sudden they retire, and then let's say they don't renew their GDC. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but let's say they don't renew their GDC. Then let's say a patient like 10 years later makes a claim against them. Where does that money come from? Do they chase the dentist up?
Yeah, so if you're on an occurrence policy, as long as that policy was in force at the time of the treatment, no matter how long in the future a claim comes in, you'll be covered. So it would go back to that policy. So say a dentist retired in, I don't know, 2015, they have a claim come in now for treatment performed in 2015, for instance. As long as they had an occurrence policy in place, it should pay out.
I see. And let's say they didn't have occurrence cover in place. Would they
Yeah.
subsequently personally be liable, or would it be the dental practice?
Yeah, unless they've found any other arrangements, there are things that you can arrange like run-off cover with the insurer, but usually that's payable annually after you retire. Some insurers include that as standard for maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It depends on the insurer, really. But yeah, if there was no cover in place, these law firms like to chuck mud, so they'll chuck mud wherever it sticks, whether that's the individual dentist, whether that's the dental practice, or whether that's any other dentists who have been involved in the treatment. So yeah.
Wow. So they'll just put their mind to it and try to find a way, basically.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay, interesting. I always had that query in my mind. I was like, how did that work? Because you hear about vicarious liability,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
always, yeah?
yeah, that's where that would come in. Yeah. Often the name above the door will be the dental practice. A claim comes in, or a claimant makes a claim. The law firm will look to involve all parties involved in that treatment usually, and quite often it'll fall on the individual's indemnity. But the vicarious liability is there for a number of reasons. One, if they do have, if they are at fault in any way, in any way, the practice. Two, if that individual, and we do see it, goes back overseas, we can't find the indemnity cover, or or thirdly, maybe even the cover's expired, or we touched on it a moment ago. If it was on a claims made basis, they have not renewed it, or they've not, that's where the vicarious liability might step in.
Interesting. So, Adam, if we had to summarize everything, if you were to give everybody who's a listener to this podcast a checklist of the hot fact things that they hot and sharp, hot and fast things, sorry is the word I'm looking for, things that they can take away to their indemnity provider to make sure that they're covered and that all the bases that I mentioned in this podcast are, well, we've got those protected, like they're working for the dentist, or we've got those in our hands, shall we say. What would that be? What would that be? I know I'll put you on the spotlight there, but I feel like
No. Well, I've touched on two or three of them already. So claims occurrence, first and foremost. Do they offer that? Yes. Great. Contract certainty. Again, we've touched on that. We said the 24/7 support and advice. Make sure that, maybe have a look who their dental legal advisors are as well. There's some really good dental legal advisors out there. There's other things you want to look out, like contingent cover. And what I mean by contingent cover is there, if you have moved from a discretionary provider to an insurance-backed provider, you and the claim come in for the time you were with a discretionary provider. If that discretionary provider repudiated a claim, you're left a bit in the lurch. So a number of the insurers, including ourselves, will provide contingent cover, which will pick up any claims repudiated for the period you were with that discretionary provider. So it just gives you that extra sort of security when you're moving, because I know moving from the likes of the MDOs, those who provide that kind of cover, sometimes, you've been with them for 10, 12 years plus, and it's quite a big jump, and there's some uncertainty, and I think just having some extra security around that move is quite important. I think there's also other things, like we offer a 24/7 GP support service. Now, it might not sound much, but it's quite popular with our members. If they're ill or a member of their immediate family are ill, they can call up, get some help, get a prescription, get back to work quicker even. It's just looking at what else they do around the indemnity and how else they can support you at your time of need. PR and reputation, what do they do around that? We know things do get out into the press, and your reputation, as you'll know, is vital. So, what else can they do to support you in that time? We've got a PR team who will step in, help you out, and try and turn that which will be negative news into a sort of a positive spin. So it's those kind of things I'd really look out for.
That is crazy, right? That can be done, that you can kind of, how does that work? Just out of pure curiosity, more than anything else, is it that you release press and media outlets that basically says positive things about the dentist, or you go to the source and you're like, hey, this isn't on? I'm just curious.
Yeah, a lot of it is, and it's way above my pay grade in terms of what they do, but they've got PR teams who will go onto the likes of Google and put positive news out there on you and almost try and get that negative news down through the rankings. So it's quite clever how they do it, but I think it's a vital thing to have. Some other things I like, and it's what I think is dentists need really, or they need to look beyond year one. They need to look like, what does next year look like? What does the year after? Something we do is we provide a price guarantee for 3 years, subject to not having lots of claims, for instance. But I think that gives you just the assurance, I'm paying this much this year. Next year it's going to be the same the following year. And as part of that, we'll then give you 2 weeks free cover next year, 4 weeks the year after. And I think for the type, it's not a small outlay, indemnity. So I do believe it. You should have some reward for your loyalty. So that's one thing which it's just looking at those additional covers those indemnity providers can offer you. We would be more than happy to provide you with an audit of your indemnity, see any money you can save, and also give you any advice on your current arrangements. Please call me personally on 07725 580 148 or adam@allmed.co.uk is my email address. We've got a link below which will take you to our proposal and our indemnity offering.